Hi, welcome to KartTV. I'm Nils Schneider, and today I'm going to show you how to do 2 pie fillings that are fall classics. So today we've got pumpkin pie, and I've gone ahead and I've processed some apples for a nice apple pie as well. I've got Royal Gala, I've got Macintosh, and Granny Smith apples here. I've coated it in 1 lemon's worth of juice. I've also tossed it just enough white sugar just to cover everything over as well. It'll cut through that tartness from the Granny Smiths themselves and add a little bit of sweetness and depth. And I've also tossed it in some cinnamon. So this is a really easy mix. And what we're gonna do firstly, before we start working on our lattice, we're just gonna toss this into a heavy bottom pot or whatever you have at home, and we're gonna start stewing these down. Now it's always deceiving how many apples you'll need for a recipe. There's a lot of moisture content in these, so these will really cook down quite a bit. So we'll get these on a medium-high heat and we'll start cooking these down. All right, so we have our apples stewing in the back. We're gonna start making our pumpkin pie mix. So I've got my pumpkin puree here. And in here I have a mixture of my sugars and my spices and my salt. And we're just gonna start folding that together. Now it's really important that we really incorporate these spices well. We don't want kind of like one part of the pumpkin pie to have just a big chunk of nutmeg or something in there. So just really make sure that you're nice and thorough with this process. And then we're gonna add in our cream and our eggs. And then we're gonna whisk all this together. Now the nice thing about this mix is if you're making smaller pies or you want to reserve some for another dish later, you can always just put this in the fridge. It's got a really good shelf life, probably about a week. Now while that was working, I preheated my oven to 425 degrees. So we're going to grab one of our shells here. We just want to fill enough mixture to come right up to the rim. You can also use your spatula just to kind of work it around the edges a little bit. Okay, so now that we have our pie filled with our pumpkin pie mix, we're gonna throw it into the oven at 425 for 15 minutes. And then once that 15 minutes is up, we're gonna lower the temp down to 350. We're gonna cook for about 45 minutes, okay? Just ever so gently. All right, so our pumpkin pie's in the oven. We've got our apples finished stewing here. And what we wanna do is we just wanna make our lattices for our apple pie. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just dust our surface here. Now again, you can just reuse the scraps you had from the last pie dough that we made in the previous episode, or you can just make another recipe if you either threw it out or just didn't have enough. So we're just gonna generously dust that with flour, flip it over. Again, not to overwork it too much. And we're lifting and dusting as we go, making sure that we don't stick to the table. Just making sure that we're constantly checking if it's sticking to the table. Now essentially we just wanna work this dough until we can get the total length across of the pie shell. All right, so now that we've got it to the width that we want, what I'm gonna do is just trim off the ends. We just wanna clean up the edges, the stuff that we're not gonna be able to use for the top of the pie. And then again, we're just gonna very gently fold and fold. Now at this point, what I like to do is I like to grab a cutting board and I like to very gently transfer it over. And we're just gonna unroll it right on top. Now this is nice, like if you don't have time to cut them right away, what you can do is just throw this right into the fridge. And you can kind of just maybe even follow the guidelines of whatever cutting board you have. I like to make them almost about a 1/2 inch width. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab our pie shell just like this. We'll grab our apple filling here, our nice stewed apple. So since this filling is hot, you can go one of two ways. You can either make the lattice on the cutting board itself and just transfer it over, or you can cool the mixture firstly and then do the lattice work right on top of the pie. Today, just for ease of time, we're just gonna do the lattice work right on the board. What we're gonna do is we're gonna separate our lattice just like so. Kind of move a couple off the board just for now, just so we can kind of gauge our size here. And then we're gonna take our lattice and we're just gonna go right across. If the last kind of end piece is not so pretty like this one, you can kind of make sure that you put it at the end, and that will be your little end bit. And then we'll put the nicer looking ones kind of dead center here. Okay, so now that you have it here, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna lift like this. Same here. And it's kind of just back and forth movement like this. Okay, same thing here. You can work all the way down. And then what you can kind of do is just move the pie here, shake it right on top. Once we hit this stage, what I do is I just push down on the sides here, push down, and follow along the same way all the way around. Now what I have here, I've got an egg mix. It's just one whole egg, and then I've put a little bit of cold water. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna brush that onto the lattice itself. And I also have raw brown sugar here. And we're just gonna follow all the way around. And then this will go into the oven at 425 for about 15-20 minutes. So I've pulled these and I've chilled the pumpkin pie now. It's nice and set. This you can see when we cook the apple pie filling firstly, it's almost like a jam-like texture inside. It looks a little dry, but when we cut into it, it's gonna be a really, really nice texture in there. Thanks for tuning into KartTV. I'm Nils Schneider, and these are two of my favorite fall classic pies.